5
Recording in progress.
Yep, we have 3 of the 5 members here in person, so we do have a quorum. So going through the agenda, the first thing we need to do is approve the agenda. We have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second it. Good, Christy?
Second.
All right, agenda approval is good. Did anyone get a chance to look at the minutes?
Apologies for not bringing copies.
They appear to be fine to me. I looked them over. Were you good with the minutes?
I'm fine. Minutes are fine.
Larry was good. I'm good. So we're okay, Christy?
Yes.
All right. So we got the approval of the minutes. We'll go down to the board chairs report. Okay, as you know, there's been a tremendous amount of controversy regarding the new schedule that took effect with the opening of Grand Central Madison. I've had a couple of meetings with Long Island Railroad senior management regarding the situation and have their assurances that they will continue to monitor the situation and make whatever tweaks that they can to the schedules and train sizes. I will be having another meeting with them in the coming weeks, and to that end, PCAC staff has launched a detailed survey of riders' concerns that I hope to take with me to that meeting. Lisa will go into the details of that survey a little later in the meeting. One of the changes that I'll be pushing very hard for is the reinstatement of time connections at Jamaica. And another major problem appears to be that there is simply not enough rolling stock to accommodate the new schedules. This is a problem that's not going to resolve itself anytime soon. As while we will have 48 additional M9s by the year, there are currently over 100 M3s still in service that are pretty much past their useful service life. The M9A order, which is needed to retire the balance of the M3 fleet, has still not yet been placed. As an MTA board member, I will be pushing to get that approved, but stay tuned. There's also a new MTA email alert system that has replaced the old LIRR email alerts. We received a briefing on this system at last month's PCAC meeting, but unfortunately, there's still a number of bugs in the new system that need to be worked out. I, along with the PCAC staff, will continue to provide feedback to the MTA IT department regarding this issue. While we are still going through some staffing changes in the PCAC office, including the recent departure of our associate director, Lisa will discuss that with us later during this meeting. Our efforts are to bring staffing up to full strength. It was recently brought to our attention that the elevator at the Huntington train station will be out of service for 6 to 8 months. We are pushing the town of Huntington to make every effort to expedite these repairs. That seems like an ungodly amount of time. They claim the supply chain issues, and they are just in the process of issuing the contract to do that work this week. I think they have a special board meeting or the regular board meeting this week. So again, we will keep you posted. And it's just something also to make you aware that not every elevator on the Long Island Railroad system is maintained by the Long Island Railroad. Certain municipalities have the rights to their elevators. And then regarding our efforts to have a policy put into effect regarding motorized scooters on the Long Island Railroad, we have been informed that the MTA should be ready to introduce and approve said policy at this month's board meeting. Again, hopefully we're hopeful of getting a briefing on that prior to the board meetings. But if not, I'm sure there's been enough discussion about it that everybody knows what's what. And I think it should get approved with no problem. And that concludes the board chairs report. Does anybody have any questions regarding that? I don't see any hands raised.
Chris,
you good?
Chris Gregg has his hand raised.
Chris, what's up?
I didn't hear the station name when you mentioned construction. Can you just repeat that a little clear loud on your end? I heard Lisa loud and clear, but I didn't hear you saying the station name.
Huntington.
Huntington?
Huntington.
Because I know Huntington needs to be fixed, because that one I'm hearing breaks down too many times. I get alerts so many times.
I have a question. What happens to individuals who have to use that station and have mobility devices? What do they do?
My understanding is that they actually will take somebody around to the other track, but that's only during regular business hours, right?
5 p.m.
So it's not during, if you have to get to work early, you know, if you're looking for a 5:30 train or a 6 a.m. train, there's no one to help you.
It's in the parking structure.
It's in the parking structure. And if you get in, if you get back late, you know, if you get in at 7 o'clock at night, there's nobody to assist you either.
So
And there's no ramps at all?
I spoke to the town. There's no ramp in the parking structure. So I spoke to the town the other day. They opened the bids on Tuesday night at their board meeting, and they were going to award it. And it was going to be for the installation of a new elevator and the repair, the ongoing repair of that maintenance of that elevator. They said that the old elevator, which they stressed a number of times in our call, were from had been
The prior
the prior administration had let it go to the point where it was a safety hazard and could no longer be fixed. That people were breaking into it, that it was just being damaged on a regular basis, and so it was the only recourse was to put in a new one. The person I spoke with said that they want it fixed as quickly as possible. Their job is to serve the public, and that they're going to see how they can get it expedited, but that they've been told it's supply chain, because they also have a hard time believing it's 6 to 8 months.
Yeah. It does.
Just to add one, I'm sorry, just to add, is there possible during those times when the customers are switching from the Huntington to the Port Jefferson, is there a way we can get a Long Island Care staff person to be there, or some staff? Because if they're going to switch and there's any construction, just to concern of safety for them to switch. Not asking for 2 or 3, I'm just asking for 1.
Well, because of the time, you probably need 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening.
Exactly.
That's in advance, right?
Yeah.
Is that?
It is correct, Lisa. It is advanced, but at least it was still, you know, if because of construction, you want to reroute them where they can go in case they need assistance. It will make it safer and easier for them, so we don't have to hear any lawsuits or any other groups starting going Meshuggah on us.
Agreed. Well, we can make the request. There is a representative here from the Long Island Railroad who will
Yeah,
take that.
hi, Anna.
Do we have a projected start date by chance?
They just awarded
They just awarded it
We're
on
just awarded
Tuesday.
this week, so
Okay.
So she's going to keep me updated.
Okay.
I will keep you updated.
who we've been harassing? Nick?
Thank you.
So we won't
He's
beat
definitely on
each
our
up
side.
on everything. We'll spread the joy around. Alrighty.
Is this time to talk about other elevators or no?
We'll bring that up under old business or new business or whatever. Okay, anything else from the chair's report that anyone wants to question or comment on?
I don't know if this is the proper time to ask. It's related to the inability to have cross-platform transfers and stuff at Jamaica and the train capacity. I made a FOIL request, and on the 30th, I put in a detailed question about why are they removing the 6th track on the north side between Woodside and Rockaway Beach Branch. It looks, is there a an easement, or did they sell the property to them? I can't find any record of it. I've looked it up in the database, and I don't see anything, but they've driven sheet piles in right even with the girder on that bridge there. So that bridge is out. The whole embankment is out, and you need to have that. I mean, that's the solution for the capacity problems at Jamaica, is that you have an additional 2 tracks into Manhattan. And the way to get that is to go through, I live near it. I don't know what it's called, Richmond Hill. It's a nice station. And it would be nice.
Talking about the old Lower Montauk branch.
Yes. And then, so actually I've drawn something up to make that feasible. It's feasible. And you need that capacity. I mean, they never expected a thing where they would suddenly have to bring twice as many trains into Manhattan.
Right.
And now you're stuck. So you need to preserve that part of the main line. I put in a FOIL request. It was denied. And there is a question, and I'd like an answer to my question. It's, you know, a request for information or something, and it addresses the board. And I know you're a board.
Yeah.
So I'd be thankful if you would look at that and find out what is the story there. Have they sold it because there's a lower level entrance to a garage there that seems to take up enough space? So
that you
there has to be a station there too. There has to be passenger access.
okay. If you could send an email to the PCA mail@pcac.org.
Gotcha.
This way we'll have an email that we can forward, you know, to discuss. I mean, Annabelle's not prepared to address it at this time. That's something you need to go through the FOIL request on. But if we have an email from you, we can at least, you know, at least then we know what you're looking for, and then perhaps we can assist you with that.
So then I have to write a proper FOIL request, or you guys know how to do it? Or
When we're not, you can FOIL us and we don't know the answer. I'll just tell you that right now. So if you send it, and if you send us
An email,
why
just
don't you
stating,
send that? Why don't you send what you submitted to us, and then we'll see what we can do.
this
to
way we'll
find
know
out.
exactly where you're at.
yeah, because you really want to preserve that. It was pretty forward thinking, you know. I don't know how they expected to run that much traffic through Penn Station, but I guess they thought it'd make it possible. And you get a couple of extra stations. You get Parkside, or what is it called? Glendale.
Glendale.
Is that rail still in existence?
The rail is still
Yeah.
in existence.
It's like Oak Grove.
They run freight.
Oh, they do.
They do run freight trains through there. I don't believe there's different requirements for running freight and running passenger service.
Building the connection is part of it.
So I don't think it's qualified to run passenger service. I don't think you can run passenger trains on that track.
Probably not electric.
Because of the signaling and
Elizabeth Crowley was very interested in getting that going back up, but she's going to go run Luke Letty's shop now. Start with that
Lisa, this is Chris. We cannot hear anything out of you. Can you please? Thank you.
we're back.
Okay, I can hear you. I can hear you, Jerry.
Yeah,
No, we had a
we're
glitch.
experiencing some technical difficulties. This is our first day in our new house.
Yeah.
Right. And we haven't gotten our interweb yet. So what we're saying is congratulations to Kara on her promotion. We're hiring to backfill her. That posting is live. It's on the MTA website. So, you know, please check it out. Refer to people who you think might be appropriate. As you can imagine, the hottest topic on the online on social media was about the schedule and about issues regarding connectivity, regarding misconnectivity, regarding the up and over for Atlantic, regarding crowding, regarding the slew of issues that we're all familiar with when Grand Central Madison first opened. Interestingly, the tweaks and changes that the MTA has been putting into place seem to have calmed that tide a bit. Although, you know, we're still hearing certainly quite a bit of concern being raised. We did launch our survey, our LARCC survey I understand that the railroad is also launching a survey. It's not quite ready for prime time yet, but in the next couple of weeks. We've had, I think, close to 500 responses so far. LAR today ran something, and we'll put something else out. We're getting some really interesting feedback about where people start from, if they had to transfer before, if they're transferring now, where they're transferring, if their commute is longer or shorter, if they're signed up for the new app, what their feedback on the new app is, just sort of a whole slew of things that we thought would make for interesting feedback to help the railroad as they make tweaks and changes, but also absorb all the information that's coming their way to make the bigger set of changes probably in the fall. So we've been very upfront that we're going to share that information without people's names and contact information. And now I've been looking through it, and it's really, people are continuing to respond. So we're going to continue to push it out there. I was told by someone at MTA leadership that it doesn't help if only people from Atlantic Branch respond. And that is absolutely not the case. It's people from every branch. So that's from every branch, every time, every train.
It's odd that they would make a comment like that, because they had told me that when they originally put this out for public comment, the vast majority of the comments came from the Port Washington branch, which is why they got the 3 morning expresses and the 3 evening expresses, because the Port Washington people yelled and screamed and jumped up and down.
Right. So that they wanted to make sure that that there was enough noise in the room to for everybody's voices to be heard this time. And I think we're doing a good job of capturing it. In fact, on day one, we got a little overwhelmed and had to
we actually broke the system.
Yeah, we had to go from to free to pay, but that is okay because that provides us up to 10,000 responses. So we do want to hear from people, and it's okay we hear from people more than once, particularly if their changes are making things better or the alternative. So I think it's going to be a very helpful exercise, and it's more than an exercise. It's like a reality check.
Well, unfortunately, I think when we first launched this, we only had the capacity to get 100.
Yeah,
and we blew through that like first day.
Yeah, well, for first few hours.
In fact, I put it out there on one of the social media websites, and within a half an hour, 45 minutes, I'm getting photo shots of that we crashed. And it's like, they're like, what, you idiot? You want us to do the survey, and they're telling us it's crashed already. So we were going to make it 500, and then you actually went up to how many?
10,000. Right. That's the next level.
Ballpark, what do we have? Do you know what we have now?
Right now, we've got about 500.
Yeah, so we've got 500. So we're gonna get responses, and I think this is excellent because it's not just me and Larry and 1 or 2 other riders going in there and saying, this is what we're seeing. This is a problem. We can go and say we've got 500 responses, and here's what we're finding out. The sample size is much greater, and I think we'll get response. And there are things they love to come back. Well, we had this public comment section, and we didn't get but there were a lot of things that weren't made clear to the public, and some of it might seem even very simple, but the no timed connections is a disaster. The comments that I'm getting from that is, and it's set up that the Long Island Railroad, because they view things operational. That's why they need us, because we have to give them the customer's aspect of it. It is set up now that you can have trains technically run on time because of the 6-minute, cushion that they give themselves. You can run on time and miss your connections in Jamaica. Now, we've had a couple of voice to pay people. If you miss your connection, you have 1 hour to wait for your next train. Well, so technically on paper, the trains were all on time. And yet you're standing there on a platform in Jamaica, killing an hour of your time after working all day long for on-time trains. That, it blows my mind. And I've been getting that back and forth. The other thing is when they were doing the schedule, they weren't accounting for enough time for the transfers at Jamaica, even if, again, most of the feedback I've been getting from the Oyster Bay branch, and not just because they didn't get additional service and all that, just the way they feel they're being treated. There's a lady who comes to Grand Central around, the schedule says that she should catch the 4:25 train to Jamaica. She said she can't risk it. She said there's like a 4-minute cushion at Jamaica, and that's not enough time to always make the connection. So I believe she said there's a 4:18 train or something. So that's the one she catches where she has that little comfort level of making her connection. But if it's that tight, then people have to worry about it. And I think that's also an up and over situation, which a lot of people are getting this conception that it's only Brooklyn that has to go up and over. I've come in a couple of times for board meetings, and I had to go up and over to catch my connection. We'll come in on 4, and the Penn Station train is on 1 or 2, and I have to go up and over. So it's not just Brooklyn people. They have to go up and over and down to 11, 12. So they got a little more of a walk, but there's enough people going up and down those stairs. It's kind of scary.
Right. So even with enough time, with 6 minutes, it's a lot when it's crowded.
Yeah,
it's almost virtually impossible to make it.
And like I said, the railroad, they look at it operationally. On paper, this all looks very good, but the customer experience is what they have to hear back from us, and that's why we launched that same thing. Yeah. All righty.
There was the LIR today. The other day had a whole. It was a little too technical for me, but breakdown on how to time your transfer. Right on. It was even he broke it down like if you're going to be on the 4:18. Here's the train you should take. Don't take the one that gets you there.
Don't take the 4:25. Right. If they tell you to take the 4:25, take the 4:18 so that you know that you're making it.
Right. Our survey was a lot less scientific. We just said, Ryan, go do this, and transfer and see how fast you can run and how long it takes you. Don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt anybody else. But see what that journey is like.
And again, that's another concern too, because you have people running.
Yeah.
You don't want people running. There's the possibility people slip, trips, and falls on stairs, and that's just lawsuits. Nobody wants.
Christopher has his hand raised.
Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, I want to add about the one thing about accessibility, but also adding one thing about the app. I use the app, and the one thing I did test it, and the one thing that I get a little more easy access because instead of me running like everyone else is dying to run, but at the same time, when you have the Long Island Kiers transporting you in Jamaica, passengers don't watch where they're going, or 90% of them don't even look at an app. That is the one thing. When I was there, even during Atlantic, people said, "What's the app?" And then they're all looking at my MTA, not the Long Island Railroad or the Metro North app. They're like, they never heard of it. And I'm like, there's signs all over the whole platform. How can you not see it? I mean, I can take off my glasses and I can still see it. But the one challenge that when I'm seeing accessibility, a lot of them will take their time because they will get an earlier train from Jamaica, which is the shuttle, and they still communicate with Long Island Kiers because if, say, there is a problem with an elevator, there were times they will move the train from, instead of 11 and 12 to bring it to 4 and 5. So I have seen that a little more progress because Anna, I just want to let you know, Hector did an adjustment to that. He might have forgotten. It did work one time, and it's been doing so well. So we just need to remind the seniors and people with disability, doesn't matter, it could be any device or no device. It's just to get to know if they're taking that train from there to Jamaica. So if there's a problem, they know what the timetable will look, because we still have the West Hempstead branch and the shuttle train. It's giving a person an option. If one train is full in Jamaica, there's another one on the left. And I can sit there and go, oh, I'm comfortable. Because Q and I have tested it, and we've seen that why should I run if there's another train in the terminal not leaving for at least another 10 to 15 minutes?
And that's one of the reasons they made that policy to have one one train on the platform at all times.
Now, Jerry, this is Debbie. There's one problem that I made sure to bring up to Hector when we were walking through to walk through the.
And Hannah was there.
Annabelle's
And I
here.
kept
Annabelle-
going.
Yeah,
Annabelle,
Hannah too.
Hi, Debbie.
You're talking to Annabelle.
We've met right
You
now.
know,
You guys are late.
you with us.
Yeah, but you know, with the issue that there's only one elevator for at 11:12. If that elevator is out, there's a problem,
And that's why.
and they can't bridge me because many times when I come in from Brooklyn and the elevator wasn't working on 5 and 6, they bridged me through 2 trains and was able to do it. But I can't do that all the way over. And I said, didn't everybody take into account you need a backup elevator, backup ramp or something? And he went, well, you're right. So that's going to be a problem too.
And we also got to
And
remember.
people without disability push us out of the way to get on the elevator. So I'll miss my connection
But there's
because people get in my way.
one thing in Jamaica, those elevators are not ours. Those are for authorities. That's the one thing in a newspaper
Right.
article they need to remember. Long Island Railroad does not own those elevators there. Those are all
I was
authorities.
talking earlier with Huntington. You know, the Long Island Railroad is not in control of all those elevators, and I think maybe one of the things we'll look to do in the coming months when Lisa gets her staff up a little better is maybe make a request like we had done at one time for who's responsible for all of the parking lots.
Mhm.
Some of the Long Island Railroads, some are the Village of Patchogue, some of the town of Hempstead, and get a feel for the elevators, because I saw an elevator report recently and I'm saying that's all the elevators we have. And then I looked and Huntington wasn't on there. Jamaica wasn't on there, so I don't know how many other elevators might be throughout the system that the Long Island Railroad doesn't have direct control over.
And don't forget, we have ramps too.
We have a hand up for Jeff.
Jeff, you got?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, how are you? Thanks for doing all this. So this is the first time I'm buzzing in on this, so thank you. And I'm not historic. I've been writing it for 50 years. I'm on a Long Beach branch. And I sent in comments to the MTA a year ago. I sent in comments to you guys. I responded to your survey. I've contacted all my locals, and some of this may be history, but if I could just bear with me. Is there any reason that they have given, I have asked, of why is Long Beach, and I believe West Hempstead, the only branch now without service, direct service to Penn Station on weekends?
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that.
Annabelle, do you know?
Long Beach branch and West Hempstead is.
I think it's West Hempstead, but I can only talk to Long Beach, and it's a little bit. If you guys don't know about it, it's a little bit scary. Again, it has been in all my comment letters since the beginning of this. So, and if you dig out my comment letters, I'm happy to forward it to you. I forwarded it to all the politicians. So other than maybe some equity issue, some discriminatory issue, I have no idea why they would do that. And especially if their rationale for this Grand Central Madison is to deliver office workers a more convenient place to their office, then that's certainly not the case on the weekend. So
that's also been raised because of sporting events and
Well,
I will. So let me give you an example of that. And again, this has been in all my comment letters. So I am a diehard New York Rangers fan. I am a season ticket holder for a very, very long time.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing your letter.
Usually, who are you? Who said that?
Lisa Daglian. So you see, you jog your memory by there.
There you go. I jog your memory. So then so basically what has happened is, right, and traditionally the game, and we could always argue about maybe we should have had better schedules before all this stuff happened with MSG and more coordinated. But after a concert, after an event, you were taking 1,500 people packed on that train on the Long Beach line, telling them, go to Grand Central Madison, instead of just going down into Grand Central. Go down into Penn Station, but you're telling them to go to Grand Central, which is ridiculous. So it's forcing, if you look at the times, and I put that into my comment letter, it is, you just can't make it without over to Grand Central, right? Because you have to now you have to go up to Times Square, take the shuttle across, and then we won't even talk about the fact once you're in Grand Central, takes for ages to get to where you got to be. So to me, it seems absurd. I pointed out in my letters, if you look at this, all the major entertainment venues in New York are on the West Side. So you could start and you could say Madison Square Garden, you could say the Javits Center, the Theater District, the Radio City, the Beacon, Lincoln Center, and you're now, all those people, they had a straight shot coming in. And you're now telling all of those people, nah, at least on the Long Beach line, nope. You have to now take a couple of extra connections and get to Grand Central, or you can come in and you could take your, play Jamaica roulette at 11 o'clock at night when you see the train pulling out and you now have to wait for the 12 o'clock. So I have no idea why. I asked Long Beach, when I talked to Long Beach officials, when the schedule came out, they did not even know this happened. And then you get to the Senate, and I'm not speaking for the Long Beach government, they're in their own. What happens in the summer now? Did anyone look at the fact that the trains are now coming into, going to be leaving from Grand Central with everyone with their beach chairs and all of that? So it is a major mess. I have no idea why they are completely kind of abusing penalizing the Long Beach branch for no reason as opposed to everyone else. And at the least, they should restore service back on out of Penn Station on weekend nights where there are events at Madison Square Garden. So I could give you another 3 hours worth of comments, but those are my big ones.
Right. Well, that's exactly why we launched the survey, is because that's the kind of feedback we need to get. And you lay that out very logically. I mean, it makes perfect sense. And I know if I was, I usually go to Montauk Branch or whatever, but if I had attended the Ranger game and they told me, well, you got to go all the way across town to Grand Central and get you either that, or like you said, you play Jamaica roulette. And since they don't have timed connections, it's just that it is a
no, we've seen people who have, the train has pulled out as we're coming in, and now people are saying, I'm going to have to take a train to Rockville Center and then Uber down back to Long Beach or whatever it is. And there's just no reason that this Long Beach line has to be penalized. I wrote to the Newsday reporter. I commented, he said he's on the Long Beach branch, though he has not had any weekend situations. I'll mention just one other thing to show the
Valley Stream. So technically he's on the Long Beach branch, but Valley Stream he can get. Sometimes
right. That's right. And I should mention also, because I read today that, and Madison Square Garden should do the same, but I read that the Mets had just hired a transportation coordinator to look at transportation sustainability issues. But so what happened to us in mid-March, that was the first time we took the train. My wife was going to the theater for a matinee. I was going into the Ranger game in the afternoon. I think it was like the 18th. We came in, there was no one on. The train was fairly full coming out, pulls into Jamaica. No one knows where to go. The conductor says they'll make announcements. They don't. No one knows where to go. Basically, the train empties. So there is very few people now going in remaining on the train to Grand Central. There is chaos on the platform. We go in, there's a couple of Grand Central trains roll by. Finally, Penn Station 1 comes on. And on a Saturday afternoon, my wife and I, we had to stand going into Penn Station at, taking the 1152 out of Long Beach. We had to stand. Everyone, the aisles were completely packed. And the trains kept going by. We've done this now a few times on weekends. Everyone empties out at Grand Central, at Jamaica. No one is on those Grand Central trains. I asked the guys on the track, are you keeping track of this? I asked the conductors, are you notating who's on? Yeah, sure. Yeah, we got it covered, which, we know they don't. So it is just, again, I just don't know. Someone has to stand up for Long Beach. I've talked to the politicians. I've sent letters, I forwarded my comment letters, and just no one seems to care about us down here and the relative inconvenience to see empty trains going to Grand Central on the weekends and to put all these people at risk on the weekends is just absurd and a governmental failure. I'll say one more thing and I'll take my piece when I say that was a thing from the Newsday article on the tweaks. And I think that he wrote in saying, this stuff is so baked in. For these changes to happen, I think, and having some experience with government, it is going to have to take a major leadership effort for people to get up to admit that they were wrong, that these schedules were wrong. Maybe the whole thing was wrong, but at least as it impacts the Long Beach branch, it is wrong. And that's going to require people on the MTA and politicians to get up and say, hey, we were wrong. We're going to go and rectify this. And I have seen no evidence of that. And no evidence of people even recognizing, again, it is disturbing that you don't know the issue, that Long Beach has no weekend service direct. So thank you.
That's what we appreciate. We appreciate that input, and we've definitely taken that under advisement. Ron, I see, is that you with the hand up?
Yeah.
Ron Troy.
Hi. I had emailed Lisa with a few questions and comments, but I'll stick to a couple right now. One is, I know this is medium to long term, but with all the crowding and problems doing transfers at Jamaica, I think they're going to have to add additional bridges, elevators, and escalators. What's there now isn't enough. It's not reliable enough. And it's apparently created an incredibly dangerous situation. Now, I can't climb more than a few stairs. I can go a few steps here and there, but as I get older, I get less mobile. So it scares the hell out of me trying, if I have to take trains from East Northport into Grand Central, or unless I'm at the right time into Penn, then I might have to do an up and over at Jamaica, hoping like hell I can get there fast enough that there's a working elevator or working escalator. You get the general idea. We need 2 more, I think, bridges with elevator and escalator sets. And they don't have to connect to the Port Authority, but we need something to provide sufficient capacity. I'll briefly note, I'm planning a very upcoming trip and going to something from the Transit Museum in Manhattan. And, I was trying to figure out things like transfers and stuff like that. And I noticed that the website, has the schedules. You can tell what's a transfer, what's not. And you can pretty clearly figure out the schedules. So that was good. The bad was, I could not find on LIR schedules anything about how the transfers worked, where they were, when they were. That's something I'm used to always seeing. And on the app, when you look at it, train time, I found, if I'm in East Northport, but I was planning to use Deer Park that day. And it was unbelievably confusing trying to figure out, how do I get a train to Grand Central, which is what I want in this case, versus Penn. The app, they messed up the design so badly. Look, I have an MBA in Management Information Systems. I specialized for years in graphical user interfaces. And let's just say, if I were in charge of whoever came up with the current GUI, I would fire them for gross incompetence. I mean, that's how bad I think it is. I've had back and forth with Ryan and Lisa a little bit about this. Anyway, you get the points, and everybody said most of the other issues.
Okay, appreciate it. All righty, so
I just want to say that we've been testifying about these issues at the board and the committee meetings too, and Jerry has been raising them. Not always well received by the MTA leadership necessarily, but absolutely making sure to represent riders and the issues that are being raised, because they are obviously very real
Oh.
of concern. So,
And Lisa,
that's
please don't
this
forget.
council, yeah, and
Please don't
hold on,
forget
Ron.
Diesel Country.
I'm sorry.
What's that, Ron? We missed.
Please don't forget Diesel Country, because
Oh,
none of those trains go
I live
directly
in
to Grand Central.
I'm a diesel grower myself.
Yep.
So, absolutely.
Yeah,
And,
Lisa's a
yeah.
weekend warrior when it comes to the diesel service too. So
Now
trust
I
me.
can be a
Including me.
Yeah. So absolutely, but I think that Jerry has led a good charge on and broken some eggs to try and make some omelets, and we're going to continue to do that. So,
alrighty. Is there anything on the chats? Did you check the chats? Are we good?
No, we're good.
All right. So without further ado, turn it over to Annabelle. Just give us a quick update on whatever items you feel are.
Yes, thank you, Jerry. So good afternoon. For the record, my name is Annabelle Frias. I'm one of the assistant directors of government and community relations at the Long Island Railroad. I'm going to give just very brief updates on some of the changes we made to the schedule since the new service plan was implemented on February 27th. But before I do, I did want to mention, Jeff, if you wouldn't mind emailing that letter over to me as well. I'll include my email in the chat if I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am happy to send it to you and spend all the time in the world telling you all the issues.
No trouble at all. But if we have that, at least we could possibly get a written response to you as well. So you wouldn't mind sending that whenever you can.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned, everyone is well aware we implemented our new service plan, the largest service increase in Long Island Railroad history. With that being said, we are very well aware that many of our customers experience a lot of inconveniences and difficulties, specifically that first and second week. So after that, after we collected our own ridership data and we received feedback from commuters, we made a couple of changes. So I'll go over them really briefly. I'm sure a lot of people already know what those changes were, but just for the record, I want to make sure that I express those. So one of the major issues that we heard and saw was the level of service for the Atlantic Terminal shuttles, the Brooklyn shuttles. One major complaint we heard was the 12-minute distance between trains. It wasn't frequent enough. So what we did is we added trains to the Brooklyn shuttle so that the frequency was between 8 to 9 minutes. Another issue was the track assignments changing day to day, which contributed to that massive up and over movement for customers. So what we did is we rationalized which trains use which track at Jamaica. Ideally, what should be happening is that Penn and Grand Central trains should be using tracks 1, 2, and 3. We know that at times there could be issues when it comes to delays, and I have heard, I've spoken at other civics, and I've been told that even in the last week or so, they've seen Penn Station trains or Grand Central trains at other tracks. So I have been noting that to our service planning, and after, please, if there are any specific complaints or concerns, please let me know, because I provide this information afterwards as well so that they can make reasonable adjustments when possible. We're also encouraging whoever can transfer east of Jamaica. If possible, please do so, like in Mineola, Wonton, Brentwood. If you could make a transfer before, it would be easier for your commute in terms of how crowded those trains will be. And the last major issue is the overcrowding on Penn Station trains. Initially, when we created the service plan, based on all the surveys we did prior to implementing the plan, we anticipated a 70-30 passenger split. So about 70% of our passengers would go to Penn and about 30 would go to Grand Central. That was our predictions based on these studies. What we saw that first day, that first week, was that it was more of a 60-40. And unfortunately, our service plan did not reflect that. So we did reallocate some trains. We moved some trains from the Grand Central fleet to the Penn Station fleets, as well as adding some train sets to the Penn Station trains from the Grand Central trains to reflect that the increase of Penn Station commuters. And then for Brooklyn service specifically, because we did hear a lot of issues with and saw, and based on her ridership data, there are a lot of issues with the Brooklyn shuttle trains. So what we did is we increased the rush hour service, as I mentioned. We added 2 additional train sets, and that created a total of 9 train sets operating between Jamaica and Atlantic Terminal. That was about a 29% increase from the first week of service. Additionally, we have platform controllers at the platform F for tracks 11 and 12R. That's where the Brooklyn shuttles are. And those platform controllers determine or can determine when those trains depart. And that's really helpful because we are able to hold one train, at least one train at either track 11 or 12, so that there's always a train waiting for commuters at either of those tracks. So if you miss one train, there's another train with the doors open there and available. So those were the first round of changes that we made. I'll note that we also have a similar system with the platform controllers in the afternoon rush hour at Atlantic Terminal. And then we made a couple more changes, not as extensive as the first round, but we made a few more adjustments. And what we did is that we rerouted 4 of our Grand Central Madison trains to Penn Station on March 11th. And we also extended 4 morning peak trains on the Ronkonkoma branch to serve 2 additional stations. So I wanted to note those changes that we made to address what we've been seeing and what we've been hearing. As Lisa mentioned before, really the next time we can make a larger change to our service plan would be sometime in the fall. So right now is really when we're collecting as much data as possible. We are doing our own survey as well as receiving surveys not only from the Mayor Council, but we know that there are other elected officials that are running their own surveys and they're providing that to us once those are completed. So if there are any complaints, any comments, anything of that nature, right now is really the best time to provide those. And wherever we can, when possible, we'll make those changes sometime this fall. So.
And some of the tweaks they can and they have been making based on some of our comments. Annabelle mentions the additional stops on the Ronkonkoma branch. That was what we thought was very logical. Is like, okay, you're saying transfer to Brentwood to catch a train to Ronkonkoma, but the train's going on through Central Islip and Ronkonkoma to go to the yard. Why? Yeah. You know, and I believe there was 3 or 4 trains where they actually changed that. So now they do stop. Not all the trains though. I thought they had eliminated that on all the trains, but that's why if you see us have a hard stop at 6 o'clock, because if I don't catch the train that's going to take me directly to Ronkonkoma, the next train has 2 transfers. It's a Huntington train, so I understand the transfer at Hicksville, but for some reason on that train, I will have to transfer again at Brentwood. That makes absolutely no sense to me, but you know, so there's still some glitches in here, but that's why we need to have riders' input so that we can, and wherever you can, if you can interject a little logic into it, like, you know, hey, we're going to the yard anyway, make the stops, it would really be appreciated. You know, the more information, the more input we can give them, the better.
Yes, I'll just add one more thing I mentioned before. When we released the draft schedules, we had our public hearings, and realistically, what really happened was that we heard the majority of the comments from that Port Washington branch. So that's where we made those changes. I bring that up just because we want to make sure we're hearing from everybody, from all of our branches. We don't want to exclude anybody in terms of our branches, but if we're hearing from one particular group over the other, it's very hard to really see the whole picture. So as I mentioned, just to reiterate, we really feedback, as much feedback as possible right now.
All right, greatly appreciated.
It's also interesting that they're making some minor adjustments now, even because I just got a notice just as I was sitting here that they're increasing stops on one train, which I kind of thought was starting Monday, April 17th. They're extending trains down to Seaford. So that's a train that used to stop at Wanta. So they are still making some minor adjustments.
I just want to note that the additional information that you get, that what the changes are, is probably directly as a result of Jerry raising some flags about. You can't just say that you're making changes. You have to tell us what they are. Otherwise, it's like
I said a few people a couple of weeks ago, and I really didn't apologize for it. And it's not so much the operations. Like I said, they have a new email alert system that still has bugs in it, and not this past Monday, but the previous Monday, they had a number of changes. And basically, the email alert says there are service changes on Monday. And it's even said to go to Train Time app or whatever. But nowhere could you find changes. It was like the MTA was conducting their own Easter egg hunt. Only instead of Easter eggs, you're hunting your trains. And, and that Monday morning, still nobody, the reporter showed up from News 12, and nobody could give the information. And that was embarrassing, and I said it was embarrassing, and that's what got a lot of people upset with me. But make a long story short, they made some changes this past Monday, and that information was detailed out on Friday. Everybody knew exactly what they had a list of the trains that were involved. So everybody knew there was no problems. And same thing, they replayed it again on Monday. So file it under lessons learned, and I don't think that's going to happen again.
I think that the logic was that, well, in the past, changes have been made, and people deal, and but this isn't same old. These aren't the same days.
What the miscommunication was with powers of, and this is MTA took that off Long Island Railroad's hands. This is more of an MTA issue. Well, we don't issue press releases for minor changes. No one asks for press release. You do emails every day. We'll give the information in the email. You don't have to have a press release, just the email. And the one thing they didn't realize was on Long Island, Channel 12, because of the number of riders' complaints that they've been hearing, they are hyper-focused on what the railroad does. I mean, they just had that one change for they will probably change. Was an additional service change. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but they may just mention that change
will do it
because they are so hyper-focused on the Long Island Railroad and the service problem. And that was another reason that I got that upset on that one Monday was here's a reporter who's going to make it look good. She's going to give us great press. The railroad is listening. Look at all these changes they're making. And then when no one could give what the changes were, it turned into, does anybody here know what's going on? So it went from the W column to the lost column. So again, it's lessons learned. It won't happen. I'm sure it won't happen again. But it was like, wow, that,
Ron has asked, why are there so many breakdowns? You mean on the M3s? Because they're old.
No, in general, I get nonstop notices of broken down trains, switch problems, signal problems in areas that I thought had been rebuilt, equipment that other than the M3s perhaps should be in good shape. But it seems like there's just nonstop notices of breakdowns, which have to be making the other problems even worse.
It's pile on.
Yeah, and unfortunately with a question like that, it becomes about specific because unfortunately at that point every single issue that is presented could be caused by a number of different things.
Oh, I get it, and I know you're not going to have an answer today.
But I do want to ask: are you speaking on when you are at Jamaica specifically,
no.
or
I'm not commuting these days, but I get the new notices, And it's like ignoring subway problems, things like that. There are frequently constant streams of delay/breakdown notices from the railroad. And unless they're a figment of the imagination of the new system, it sounds like there's still some serious, I don't know, maintenance, infrastructure issues.
Well, what I will say is that I mentioned before, this is the largest service increase we've ever had. So we're running way more service than we ever have before. And unfortunately, with that comes more issues of those nature. So it could just be, maybe it might have seemed like we had less breakdowns prior, but we weren't running as much service as we are now.
One of the other things, one of the other things too is that
Oops. Everything died.
everything's rolling, and when something has a problem, they have much less, less cars to run. So that's unfortunately they're trying to make the best. Gotta really to get that in because make it another year out of it. We have an old job, it goes.
We really couldn't hear anything Jerry just said for the last minute. Okay.
Jessica, I think we lost them.
Yeah, Ron, he had to log off and log back in. We're having like little connectivity issues at the Mineola office. It's the first time that we're using the facility and we don't have our own Wi-Fi. So that's probably why they got booted off. I'm sure they'll be back on in a second.
Yeah, Lisa's coming on. Let's keep the mute.
We should. How about now? Okay.
Do you want to?
How about now?
We can hear you. This is Chris. We can hear you loud and clear.
Let me just make sure that we're recording still. Yes, we are. Okay. Chris, you are muted. I don't know if you muted you or not, but yeah.
I'm sorry, Lisa. You're calling me? I didn't hear you.
Yeah, we called on you.
Okay. No, what I was just going to mention, there was another schedule adding also changed. We got an email today regarding you guys are working near west of Jamaica, regarding near going towards Penn and Grand Central. That was mentioned on the email today as well about service changes there, that some trains will be going to Atlantic. Some they're doing minor, they're not running all the service, but it's very complicated to understand.
There's some construction that's going to be happening because of the widening of the Van Wyck.
Yeah, near the Van Wyck Expressway. That I was aware of that, but the service changes are like this.
All righty. Do we have anything else for Annabelle before? Okay. We're all good for Annabelle? All righty.
Let me throw it in now.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of Grand Central lately. There's always elevators broken in Grand Central. It's like every single time I've been there, I mean, agreed, there are a lot of elevators available, but it's just amazing. These are all brand spanking new and they're not even filled with people and they're breaking. Yeah, it's just amazing how many are out at any one time. And plus, we also see them on Facebook.
Yeah, the escalators.
But the escalators are just breaking down left and right. Oh, and escalators. I think they said that there's somebody from the company on site at all times. I think they said that at a previous meeting.
This is Chris. I did say that because I was with Q the time when they were checking those elevators. But the problem is it seems that they've been having issues. Sometimes they get somehow jammed or something they need to fix. It's been a lot of errors. Even when you try to put your hand to hold the door, the thing doesn't work either. There's some safety problems too.
Well,
if it stops midstream, it's a long walk.
Yeah.
But they're also encouraging everyone who needs to go downstairs to use the Long Island Cares.
Chris, hold on. And quickly, I was just mentioning that our manager for that station very well
and one of
We can't hear you again. Sorry, we can't hear you guys.
okay. All right. Another problem we have with the elevators at Grand Central is, I know, Chris, you look at them as a conveyance, for the handicapped and disabled, but because of the way Grand Central is laid out, it is probably the best way to get to the surface. And riders have discovered this. So it's not just disabled that are using these elevators. Regular riders are like, now they know where it is. They had it hidden, but now we found it.
I know.
And go right up and boom, you're right out to the street level. And so these elevators are getting they're going nonstop. At least during the rush hours, they're going nonstop.
yeah. Unfortunately,
Yeah. But they found a way. Eventually they will find where they are.
It's one of these things. Hey, where does this go? Ooh.
First open, I took out 47. I'm on literally on 47.
It's got to be that one all the way at the end on the left side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found that one too.
Stay tuned. Yeah.
All right. Normally we ask about Penn Station, but I think this article, the concourse of Penn Station is getting close to wrapping up with the day work, and then hopefully within months we'll start doing vendors in there, and be able to get a pizza and a beer and a taco and for fancy people can get their sushi, whatever.
So I
no. Yeah.
But I heard that.
Okay.
That was yours
Which is a nice
first.
spot.
Yeah.
They're on 31st.
31st. Across from the parking lot, or next to the parking lot.
Unless they ever,
Gotcha. Yeah.
unless they ever decide to put those 8 additional tracks in there, which time they'll probably do that.
Well, that's part of the extension plan, yeah. Yeah. But that's gonna.
No, not anytime soon.
Uh-huh.
Right. One other thing I just found out about. So I didn't have it in my report. At UBS Arena, I understand now they've gone to a gated system after events. No, for when you come in, it's not like get on your train and then the conductor check the ticket. I understand they actually have a gate system there now, like they do at Shake Day.
I think they're doing that.
They must have tested it last night.
Yeah,
because I saw a whole bunch of social media about, and they were all complaining because like all these people are crowded in, and it's like they got gates.
Yeah,
so,
must have been one of the. Film the testing phase.
Okay. Well, this was the first that I had heard about it was last night, and in fact, like when we were discussing it, Lisa said, "Well, they might eventually do that. They do it at Citi Field." And then all of a sudden, I'm looking this morning and says, "Oh, yeah, they're doing it."
Yeah, we got a golden ticket.
Alrighty, so last call. Anything for Annabelle? Alrighty, Annabelle, we really appreciate you coming out here. No, thank you. And oh, Annabelle, just one thing. It may help if it comes from you as well as, as me. the mentioned email alert system, and it's I understand it's supposed to be new and improved, and it's the MTA, you know, but they made a one-step process. In most cases, I mean, not all cases, and that's the whole thing is kind of lack of consistency there. But it used to be, if they change a train or they do something, they would tell you on the initial email blast. Now, I had one, I think it was just yesterday, where there were delays in the Montauk branch. Go to MTA.
Yeah.
And you pressed on it, and it was only 2 trains. It wasn't like there was 7 trains or something like that where I could see them, but it was just like 2 trains. So why didn't they just tell us what the 2 trains were to begin with? And why make you go through a second step? It's supposed to be making it easier, not more difficult. So I mentioned that we're in communications with the gentleman who's handling that. But if you could make a note that it was brought up, just maybe it was brought up at the community council meeting.
Yeah, and that thing that Jerry was talking about, I just looked online. Picture 10,000 fans all coming at once, pushing and shoving to a gate, and to top it off with internet sketchy, you couldn't even call up your e-tickets. What a nightmare!
That's the one I saw.
What a nightmare.
I think that the so I probably the confusion.
In order to access the gate, you ticket. So
the trains are still, or hold it up so that they show that it. Yeah, we left the last time we left here, we were on.
And if they don't do that, then people are getting off. So I mean, they'll catch you by the time the time, then they'll catch you somewhere like in Deer Park, where there's so many people, and in some situations, the just can't get through.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people standing in the aisles until the train makes 2 or 3 stations and dumps some people out. You know, the conductor can't even come through. So it makes sense to have the gated system. But again, it's a learning process, and then, like I said, people just showed up and said, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah.
According to that, there was only 1 entry point. So if you're going to do the gated system, obviously you're going to need 3 or 4 entry points, so to speak.
That's the
Right. Well, the post just said 1 funneled entrance, 1 funneled gate that everybody was funneled into.
But like you said, it's experiment, right? Yeah. Experiment. You know, it's trial or whatever. So this is the feedback. Ready? We greatly appreciate it. Okay, so the next item, we go down to old business. Anybody have any old business that they wanted to bring up from previous meetings? All right, anybody got any new business they want to bring up?
Update on the budget.
Yeah, go right ahead.
There's no update on the budget.
That's easy.
Yeah, the budget is funding for the MTA. It's critical that it's apparent that
Lisa, we can't hear you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
What Lisa was saying is about the budget.
The state budget.
The state budget. That is beyond today's the 13th. It should be settled on April 1st.
The good news is that everybody has made it, that funding for the is a priority. It's the only, you know, there's just there's not yet as far as how to specificity. So that's the
I'm sorry, Lisa, we're catching every other word. I know you mentioned it was on the budget, but we literally heard every other word.
Okay. How about now? Is this better? Probably, right? Okay. So the budget has been delayed. There are good news is that the Senate, the Assembly, and the Governor there is no full lessons around what funding mechanism those will be. There's some disparities there. So we're continuing conversations with elected officials and leadership to bring of funding the MTA, particularly as the other bail reform are getting ironed out so that all the options doesn't keep growing. And that just this year doesn't get funded and go up.
What we're hearing in general from the elected is those are the reasons that the budget's being held up. It's not matters of funding, but as Yogi Berra once said, it ain't over till it's over. And that's why we have to continue to beat the drum for the funding, even though the electeds will tell you, oh, don't worry about it. You know, we're fighting over, you know, Governor Hochul wanting to have this transit-oriented housing developments and over bail reform and things like that. Yeah, those are the sticking points, but still, you never know until they sign on the dotted line and say we have a budget. They can change things. So we have to just be very careful.
Jerry, this is Chris. I just want to add, because of the budget, we're also accessibility has all different groups, and I'm just going to say accessibility groups have put letters out to make sure fully funding for accessibility for all railroads and subways and buses. So that letter has been gone out to all advocates have been put this in, and they went to all elected officials from Congress, Senator, and the Assembly, and to the governor as well.
Okay, yeah, I believe we signed on to something like that recently.
And that's all advocates, including DD and advisory councils as well.
Okay. Okay, anything else going once? Going twice? A motion to adjourn?
5:50 motion to adjourn.
5:50 motion to adjourn.
Bye, everybody.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Hi, everyone. Have a good night.
Jessica, you heard me what I said, right?
I did.
Good. Just making sure.
Take care.